Good afternoon, everyone. It's Craig Studnicki, your CEO from RelatedISG. Welcome to the Q2 update of the Miami Report. Might have taken us a little longer than usual to put this together, but in the 30-some years I've been living here and working here in South Florida, I've never, ever seen the dynamics and the facts and the trends of South Florida change so rapidly, so dynamically. And I wanted to make sure that the Q2 update was as up-to-date as possible for all of you. The purpose of this is to help you get more listings, to close more deals. And I think the information that I'm going to share with you today is going to help you do exactly that. And more than that, bring you up to date on the current status of this incredibly dynamic real estate market. I guess it starts with this quote from Forbes magazine. South Florida's real estate is now officially in super boom mode. They said that in February. In May, I was kind of feeling as if the market was inhaling, that maybe because folks from New York, New Jersey, Boston were returning to the Northeast for the summer of 2021. Same is true with folks from Chicago, that maybe things would calm down a little, would settle. And in fact, we did see those numbers in May. I have no idea what happened in June other than, boom, the market exhaled again. And as you know, from our Coffee with Craig Thursday morning calls, we had the very best month in the 9-year history of RelatedISG in June, just in June, the last month of the second quarter. What's happening? So let's start with MLS Resales and bring you up to speed. Single-family home listings are up. Condo listings are down. Yes, inventory of single-family homes seemed to hit its bottom towards the middle of June, and the actual inventory creeped up a little bit. Not so much with condos, but with single-family houses. Here are the numbers with the houses. At the end of Q4, December 30th, there were almost 8,600 houses for sale, Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. By the end of Q1, which end of March, you're looking at 6,149. See how it bounced up a little bit by about 700 houses? Why? Well, it is a professional opinion that many sellers, owners of single-family homes in the second quarter said, my God, my next-door neighbor's house just sold for this. The neighbor's house across the street just sold for that. I'm taking advantage of this crazy hot market. So they put their houses on the market. And that's why we've seen a slight uptick in inventory. It doesn't mean the prices have gone down. It doesn't mean that buyers are still not obligated to make an offer at list price and striking out all the normal contingencies. Doesn't mean that at all. Prices still remain extraordinarily high. But we have seen a slight increase. Will we see a larger increase by the end of Q3? There is no way of knowing. Because by the end of Q3, you're at the end of September. That's 60 days from now. When the thermometer up north, whether you're in Chicago, Boston, or New York, starts to drop, and folks up there start thinking about the winter season, they start thinking about South Florida again. So who knows what may happen to that number? There's no way of telling. But it has increased a little bit. We have seen the exact same amount of sales and velocity in May and June that we saw, say, in March and April. So it's just a little indicator that inventory is up a little bit, prices no. The condos is where we're seeing the greatest activity, though, and you're probably seeing it as well. We've talked about this before. Condos are no longer considered dangerous places. 1 year ago, July of 2020, condo associations wouldn't let you into their buildings because everything was on quarantine and shut down. And plus, buyers were kind of nervous about going into condos because of COVID-19. That's not here anymore. People are very willing to go into condos. Condo associations are very willing to receive you. But more than that, the price difference between the typical house and the typical condo for sale in MLS has never been bigger. And buyers know it. You know it as well. And the numbers are proving this whole theory out. By the end of Q4, there were nearly 20,000 active condos for sale in South Florida, Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. By the end of Q1, a little over 17,000. Now look, 12,300. Oh, it's absolutely for sure, that by the end of Q3 this year, you're down under 10,000. The question is how far down? And the question is how far does that move us into a true seller's market for condos? It's July of 2021. You're still in a buyer's market for condos, still at the moment, hanging on by a thread. A year ago, for sure, buyers had the advantage. Even at the end of Q4, even at the end of Q1. Right now, you're right on the bubble. It's still a great opportunity to steer your clients to condos where the great values are. But the big takeaway from today's Q2 is this is not going to last very long. Here's part of the reason why. Look at Q4. From all of those transactions that took place, 60% of them, 6 out of 10, were a house. 4 out of 10 were a condo. By the end of Q1, we saw the normal 50-50 relationship, and I've shared that with you folks from RelatedISG before. Usually for every 2 transactions, one's a house and one's a condo. That kind of returned to normal by the end of Q1. But by the end of Q2, look, out of every 10 transactions, 6 are condos, 4 are houses. They're tipping more towards condos, in part because people are asking for them, but I suspect mostly because the price difference, the value proposition is with condos in a very, very large way. The rule of thumb. This is something that I've learned over 40 years in this business. When any given building or a neighborhood has 10% or more of their inventory for sale in multiple listing, MLS, that's absolutely a buyer's market. But when it falls to 10% or less, now you've slipped into a seller's market. For single-family houses, it's been a seller's market for the last couple of years. This year, it's if you're a seller of a house, an owner of a house, name your price, and you're still going to be expecting, and you will get multiple offers at list price plus. Houses are still the soup du jour, if you will. It's amazing. Condos. Condos are right on the bubble. You're still in a buyer's opportunity right now. But I'm telling you, in my professional opinion, I think you've got about 6 months to enjoy that. Why do I say that? Well, here's a quick snapshot of the condos for sale that were built in this past cycle. That's a lot of information. Let me explain. All the condos that were built in this past cycle were pre-sold in 2012. Most of the construction starts began in 2014, 15, and 16. These buildings were delivered in 16, 17, and 18. 80% of the condo resales this year are from that inventory. Well, it makes sense. These buildings are in great locations. The amenities are spectacular. The finishes in the kitchens and bathrooms are beautiful. The ceilings are high, floor-to-ceiling glass. The modern architecture from the buildings in this cycle are so much nicer, really so much nicer than the condos that are 20 years old, 30 years old, etc. That's why so many of the resales take place there. Now, let's remember the rule of thumb. And for this, I'm going to have to put on my cheaters. We ranked this, and all this is available for you, RelatedISG. Sandra Guelo is going to send this information to every one of you. The number one market that probably has already tipped into the seller's advantage would be Coconut Grove and Key Biscayne. At the end of last year, it was just under 10%, at 8%. Today, it's 4%. What does that mean? 4% of all of the units that were built since 2014. These buildings are 3, 4, 5 years old. Only 4% are active in MLS. That's well below that 10% number. Definitely a seller's market. The next one would be Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale's been a very, very healthy condo market now for probably the last 12 months solid. Only 5% of the total units that were developed in this past cycle are currently for sale in MLS. What follows there is Brickell. At the end of Q1, Brickell was at 11%. It was just over that 10% margin, kicking it into the buyer's market. Now it's at 8%. I will tell you that it is not a solid seller's market, but it's definitely heading in that direction. There's still some great, great opportunities in Brickell. You can still buy a brand new condo in brand new buildings. Brand new buildings, as I'm defining them, are anywhere from 2, 3, 4 years old. Anywhere from probably $500 to $800 per square foot. These are beautiful, beautiful brand new buildings. Well located, nicely seasoned. The punch work is now finished. But even those prices per foot that I just shared with you, that's not going to last very long. My opinion is this. Watching the amount of monthly sales that are taking place in MLS, if they continue in July, in August, September, October, etc., by the end of the year, I suspect that Brickell will be right where Coconut Grove is. Solid seller's market. And 500 to 800 a foot? No, you can expect that to be closer to 700 to 1,000 a foot, simply because inventory is declining. And there is nothing new in the supply pipeline to replace condo inventory for right now, at least 4 more years. Going straight down this list, Bal Harbor, they're right around 9 to 10%. Downtown Miami, Edgewater is around 11. When you get to areas like Aventura and Sunny Isles Beach, they're at 12. They're at 12. Now, what is interesting about that? For me, at the end of December, they were north of 20%. Sunny Isles was close to 30%. 30% of the developer inventory that was closed, that was being resold by private individuals on the beach in Sunny Isles, end of December, were for sale at MLS. Today it's 12%. So you can see how this thing is dropping. If, once again, the sales absorption numbers maintain by the end of this year, you're going to be somewhere around 6 or 7%. Solid seller's market. Your clients that are asking you which is the better buy, the condo or the house, it's condos. For sure, by far, for the next 6 months. Carolina Gertz, she's your executive vice president. She believes that this time next year, 12 months from now, condos will more than likely be selling like houses are today. List price plus, contingencies probably being crossed out by most of the buyers. Once again, at the risk of repeating myself, if monthly sales continue at the pace they're on, she's 100% right. And who knows what the price per foot will look like then. I use Brickell as an example, showing the potential appreciation in prices by the end of the year. Once again, it's simply subject to reviewing the absorption of these current markets, knowing that there's nothing in the pipeline, nearly nothing in the pipeline, which I'll show you in a minute, in the form of new inventory that can keep the supply levels where they are now. Nothing. If the population growth in Florida continues, these prices have only one place to go. Here's what's happened this year. Brickell is still the most popular neighborhood for condo sales in all of South Florida. That's Coconut Grove to the south, Fort Lauderdale Beach up to the north. 1 out of 3, actually 39% sell in Brickell. The rest of them are all evenly, well, not kind of evenly divided through most of the submarkets, with the exception of Edgewater. I have to give Edgewater a nod. It's come around. Projects like Eliseis, Missoni Bahia, Paraíso, they've really helped to turn Edgewater into a neighborhood that more and more people are talking about, considering, and in fact buying. It shows so in the numbers. Almost a quarter of the sales in Q2 of the resales took place in Edgewater. It's going to be interesting to see what happens by the end of Q3. Here's another indicator of how condo sales have picked up. When you look at January through June of 2019, before the pandemic, there were 873 new condo transactions here in South Florida. Then once again, we're talking about the condos that were developed in this past cycle since 2012. Well, January through June of last year, 755. It dropped for obvious reasons. We were in quarantine. It was the middle of the pandemic. Look at this year. 1,218 so far this year. What does that mean? At this pace, new condo resales will triple 2020. Triple. Yeah, we know that the first half of 2020 was slow, but we also know that the second half of 2020 was very, very active. But at the current pace of the condo sales, we're going to triple 2020. And if that's true, then my prediction of where prices will be and how condos tip into a seller's market is true. Because there's no way it can't be. The numbers say so. It's not Craig's opinion. It's the numbers' opinion. You have a client that wants to make a buying opportunity and make a great value, take advantage of a great value opportunity right now. It's in condos, and it's here in South Florida, particularly in certain submarkets. And once again, Sandra Aguelo will share with all of you this data. New construction. We talk about this every time. Let me bring you up to speed on where we are there. We're now 96% sold. Some 19,000 plus units were developed in this past cycle. 18,500 gone. 881 remain scattered from, once again, Coconut Grove up to Fort Lauderdale Beach. And when you slice and dice those 881, neighborhood by neighborhood, building by building, it's not very many per building. We're pretty much down to not much at all. Here's what the deliveries look like. In this year, you've got 8 buildings that are being delivered in South Florida. 8 condos, most of which are sold out. If they're not, they're 90% sold. Next year in 2022, you have 4. Actually, strike that. Yeah, 4. Aston Martin, Missoni Bahia, the Estates at Aquilina's North Tower, and Aurora in Sunny Isles Beach. 4. In all of South Florida, 4. Followed by 2023, Mr. C in the Grove, 1. Followed by 2024, 0. 0. Followed by 2025, Una in Brickell, Una, 1 in all of South Florida. Followed by what? Well, we think some of the new projects that have been announced that are starting this next cycle. But folks, most of the condos that you see on this chart are sold out. There's not a lot of inventory for people to buy unless they go to MLS. And since that is the crux of the inventory and the demand seems to be not only constant, but still growing somewhat, your condo buying opportunity for your clients is the next 3 to 6 months. After that, mark my words, you're going to see prices soar. These are the properties that represent the new cycle. Baccarat by Related in Brickell, Waldorf Astoria by PMG in downtown, Aria by Mello in Edgewater, and Gildezer's Bentley in Sunny Isles Beach. 4 new projects that we call traditional condos, which means they're not short-term rental projects. They're not condo hotels. These are condos that people buy to live in. 4 new projects. You know, some of you have said to me that these projects are selling between $1,000 to $1,500 a foot, and they seem a little pricey. Well, you got a point in July. By December, and once again, this absorption continues, $1,000 to $1,500 a foot is not going to seem pricey to you whatsoever. And listen, developers today, between rising land prices and rising construction costs, expect $1,000 and $1,500 a foot to be your normal chatter when it comes to values of brand new condos. Probably this time next year, we're going to be talking about new projects that are going to be selling for closer to $2,000 a foot, because that's where the market is heading. 4. That doesn't include these projects that represent what we call short-term rentals, condo hotel, 501, 11, Legacy, District 225, Nativo. Most of these are all in downtown Miami. They're selling very well because Miami has rebounded so nicely from 2020. Anybody who's a hotel operator will tell you that they're having a remarkably great year. Anybody that owns a short-term rental, Airbnb kind of condo is having a remarkable year. They might have been crying in their soup last year, but not now. Condos, these short-term rental projects are doing extremely well because Miami and Fort Lauderdale have become more popular than ever in every way imaginable. These projects will do very well, but this is an investor-type project. It's not the kind of stuff we typically talk about, but I want to mention it because they're being actively marketed, and there is a market for this now. There is. So here's, as we wind up this presentation, I wanted to give you some perspective. In past Miami reports, we've talked about this concept called supply shock, which basically means population keeps growing, inventory stays static because there weren't a lot of starts in the last 2 or 3 years. Eventually, we're going to run out of inventory. And eventually, the inventory that you find in MLS, which may seem like a great bargain today, the prices have got to go up. In fact, perhaps soar. Well, here's one of the reasons why. This is historical perspective. In the 2000s, from 2001 right through 2007, 58,953, let's call it 59,000 condos were developed here in South Florida from Coconut Grove up to Fort Lauderdale Beach. That's 275 buildings contained nearly 59,000 units, 275 condo buildings. Once again, traditional condos. These are not condo hotels. These are condos that were built for people to live in. In this past cycle, you see the number, 18,175. 123 buildings, 275 to 123. In this cycle, you have 2,505. That's about 8 buildings. You think we're short? You think we need more? Because I can promise you that a big percentage of those 2,500 units that are currently in development are already sold. My guess is a year from now, I won't be surprised at all if I'm sitting here telling you that 90% of those are already sold, which puts further pressure on the MLS inventory, causing condo prices to soar, making Carolina Gertz right. More than likely, a year from now, condos will be trading like houses are today, list price plus and free of all contingencies. You know, the last time that the U.S. Census Bureau came out with their numbers of the population of Florida was January of 2020. They are very late this year coming out with those numbers. And part of the reason is that they say that they haven't seen a population shift in the United States that was created by 2020 for 160 years. That was the U.S. Civil War. Imagine. The numbers were so dynamic and changed in such a crazy way that they're still trying to get their arms around it. They have said that they will come out, finally publish the new population numbers, the shift of the population inside the U.S. by the end of September. So I don't have those numbers to present to you, but I'm asking you to use some of your common sense related ISG. You drive these highways like I do. This is July. I have never, ever seen car traffic in July like I've seen this year, or for that matter, June, or for that matter, May, which tells me that most of the real estate that we've sold in the last 12 months are not second homes. These are people that came here to live here permanently. When the Census Bureau comes out with their numbers again, I think what we're going to see is what we already instinctively know. 900 people a day didn't move to Florida last year. It's going to be much higher. Florida, I suspect, might even be the most popular state in the U.S. last year, just by looking around and getting stuck in traffic jams everywhere I go here in South Florida and seeing license plates from California to Maine and all parts in between. You've seen it as well. I don't have those population numbers. What I do know is that this number one takeaway is true. We are heading for supply shock, and your clients are looking for a great buy in a residential home. If they have an inkling towards living in a condo with beautiful resort amenities, pitch them a condo right now. You're going to have a friend for life, because the condos pricing that is available today will not be here in 6 months. There's no way it can be. Declining developer inventory and resale inventory, we just went through that. Houses are very low. Condos are at an all-time low in South Florida, with virtually nothing in the form of new inventory for sale in the pipeline to relieve some of that pressure. And yes, a new cycle has begun with 8 new buildings, 8, compared to 123 from the last cycle, compared to 275 from the 2000s. If the U.S. Census Bureau comes out with the numbers that I suspect are going to come out, we need more buildings. We need more condos. We need more housing. We need more. But for the next 6 months, related ISG, I'm advising you, based on this presentation, based on these numbers that we pulled together for you, to pitch your clients condos if that's what they want, because that's where the great buy is. I guess I'll see you at the end of September for the Q3 update. Until then, bye-bye.